So events really escalating there. We can get more on this now and speak to Jonathan Sacherdoti, who's the director of the Institute for Middle Eastern Democracy. It's worrying, isn't it? I mean, what we see is tit-for-tat responses, but just to show how quickly it can escalate across the region, we're now hearing that in Egypt there's calls for a Security Council meeting. So within a couple of hours, the whole region is now affected.
It's absolutely true. I mean, this round of escalations kicked off not tonight, of course, with Israel's action, but a few days ago, since Saturday night, there were over 130 rockets and missiles launched from the Gaza Strip on Israel. So Israel acted at first with restraint, warning that it would have to retaliate in order to protect its civilian population. And, of course, today, Israeli leaders have said that the action they've taken in striking this particular targeted killing, this man who was responsible personally for the kidnapping of the Israeli soldier Gilad Shalit, handed back around a year ago in return for 1,000+ security prisoners. They have struck this guy as a retaliation and to hit out at the infrastructure of Hamas and to stop it targeting their civilians in future.
Our correspondents in the region are saying there's a lot of anger on the streets of Gaza this evening. To Israel, he was nothing more than a terrorist. That's how they describe him, as you said, with a lot of blood in his hands. To them, he was a military leader fighting a cause.
Well, he was a person who was, during the early 90s, imprisoned in Israeli prison for his terror activities, and that's in fact when his rise to seniority in Hamas took place. That's when he joined the Hamas party and became, whilst still in prison, the representative for all Hamas and Islamic Jihad, two main terror organisations in Gaza Strip, the representative for all those security prisoners belonging to those groups. So that's how he's risen to this position of power in those terror organisations, which are responsible for all these many rockets and attacks on civilians in the south of Israel and now reaching into the centre of Israel. I mean, at the current moment, the Israeli authorities say that there are 1 million Israeli civilians at risk from these rockets and missiles being launched at them, which is about 13% of their population. So they argue that if 13% of, say, the UK population, that's roughly equivalent to the population of London, were at risk, there would be a call, of course, for urgent action in order to protect them, and that's what Israelis are claiming they're doing at the moment.
Do you think there's anything in the timing of all of this? In just a couple of weeks, at the end of the month, there'll be a UN vote on whether to establish Palestine as an observatory state, and then in January the now early elections will be taking place in Israel, and historically Israel's been accused of flexing its muscles, showing its strength just before an election against the Palestinians.
Absolutely. Well, I've heard that suggestion coming from Jeremy Bowen in particular on the BBC and others, but I personally don't think that it holds much water. I think that Israel tends to have to act in decisive ways in order to protect the security of its civilian population. It tends to be governed in those matters by those needs, those security needs of the population. There was a huge escalation in the amount of missiles and rockets coming out of the Gaza Strip towards that population over the last few days. That doubtless wasn't timed by the Islamic Jihad and Hamas organisations to coincide with Israeli elections. So it's hard to understand how anyone could attribute these defensive actions on the part of Israel to some sort of electioneering on the part of Mr. Netanyahu, who in any case is widely thought to be on a winning route to another term of power after the elections.
Jonathan Sacherdoti, thank you for coming in.
Thank you.